What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for November 6, 2022. Well, that sucked. And not really in the mood for moral victories. I feel like that's kind of like that old school, old Philly attitude. Like, well, they did this, they did that. Like, this one stings. It definitely stings, especially when you go back to game five and you left 12 runners on base. You went 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, and you were in that game. Like, you win that game, we're having a different conversation today. Whether or not they won yet last night, if they won game five, it doesn't matter. Like, we're talking at least, we're talking about a game seven. So maybe down the road, we'll be able to do some moral victories and say, yes, they got way farther than what they were expected to, blah 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 blah. But right now it stings, especially like I said, it's frustrating to know that you had a chance. Like, this is very similar to that Yankees World Series, very similar to '93, where '93 they weren't expected to be there, but a couple things go differently in that World Series for the games that they were in. Then all of a sudden we're at, again, that it's a whole different mentality about that team. The Yankees one was a little different because they should have been there and they just didn't get it done. But this one, like I said, it just stings because that game five, and there was definitely some magic. And don't get me wrong, it was a fun ride. It was a blast. I do think when the teams are good, and it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, whoever. When the teams are good, it's very fun to be in Philadelphia. It's very fun to go on those rides with the teams. So, like, I'm not taking that away, but I'm disappointed. I'm pissed off. I don't want to hear, well, they did make it there and they weren't supposed to. I don't care. Like, I don't want to hear that. That's a loser mentality. We were there. We should have won it. This is New Philly. I've been talking about New Philly since we started this run in the World Series, or tour the World Series, and I want to keep that mentality up because the truth of the matter is, and I'll get more into it this week on Back to the Future with our college football or college basketball and World Series kind of wrap up episode. It's kind of, well, I figured it's going to be a transitional episode, but next year was the year I expected them to kind of make this run and make that next step. This year, the goal was just to make the playoffs. So in that regard, yeah, I mean, morally, yeah, we exceeded expectations. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have won. And that's what's frustrating. And I mean, I will give it up to the Astros. They are a good team. I hopefully, I mean, they still cheated in 2017, but I'll give it to them. They didn't cheat this time. They're a very good team, very very good team, and that's, I think, even more what pisses me off because the Eagles or the Phillies still should have won, or could have won. I shouldn't say should. They could have won that series, and Game Five is going to haunt me. And as we get into the podcast, that's hands down going to be a what if at some point. So we'll get there, but again, disappointing. Especially now that there's no Eagles game. There's nothing to look forward to today. So I guess I'm going to have to go do yard work. So thanks a lot, Phillies, for that. Also, not a very good day for the Union. They lost in a shootout, and I understand and get that is the way international soccer decides winners and whatnot. But can't there be a better way? Can't they just play another overtime? Like, it's just like basically it comes down to luck for the most part. And I know there's probably hardcore soccer fans that'll say, no, it's skill. Goalie has to do this. No, basically, I'm looking at the goalie and I'm trying to figure out which way you're going to go so I can go the other way. What a shitty way to end a championship. I do say I think the NFL should adopt the overtime, like the 10-minute quarters or something, or 10-minute halves for overtime. I think that's pretty cool. Let them keep playing. But just for that, so it definitely was a disappointing day all around. Hey, we have these in Philly sometimes, but It's all good. The Flyers did win 2-1 over the Senators, so we will take that. But let's keep the good times rolling. This day in Philly sports history, back in 1994, the Eagles beat the Cardinals 17-7 at the Vet to move to 7-2. Randall Cunningham had 201 yards, added 63 yards rushing, threw 2 touchdowns to Arkansas Fred Barnett. Things were looking good in Philly. They were 7-2, sitting at the top of the league, I think, at that point. And then this was the last time they won a game that season. They would lose 7 straight. It was the end of the Rich Kotite era. They ended up in last place in the division. And it just, this was a crushing one for me. I will say, as a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid at this time, this was a crushing one. Because you're feeling good. You're like, all right, Kotite's finally clicking it. It's starting to come together. He had 91 where it wasn't his fault because Jerome died, or Randall got his leg or knee broke. 92, they actually won the playoff game. 93 was the year that Randall and Fred both got hurt. So this was a year where you came in, the expectations were high, and they were hitting those expectations like they should have and like they were. And then to just completely shit the bed the rest of the season is, it just, like I said, this season scarred me for a long time. And I will say, it was the end of Rich Kotite basically as a coach. He went to the Jets and went 3-13 and 1-15. And I wonder, one, it's the Jets, so is that his fault? I don't know. Two, I mean, he did, and I know it's not popular, but he did have that offense running pretty good there for a couple years where they got it together. And I question whether maybe it's at some point earlier in his career if Randall had the coaching like that and wasn't allowed to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it, things have played out different. But instead, we know Rich Kotite as a bum, which he is a bum. But on this day, 1994, the Eagles beat the Cardinals 17-4, but they did not win another game that season. So if you want to take a silver lining out of this whole Phillies debacle, last time the Astros won the World Series in 2017, we know how that season played out for the Eagles. So a little bit of a trade-off maybe. You got to come away with one of these 2 titles. So now it's on you, Eagles. Let's go. Go have yourselves a Sunday. It feels like it's summertime out there. Go do some yard work. Go to the pool. I don't know what you do when it's 80 degrees in November, but global warming's not real, I guess. But let's go. Have yourselves a Sunday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.